Am I wrong? You can't get a tattoo without isn't that the rule? Like
That's true.
you can't get a tattoo, but you can get gender affirming treatment. That's a little weird, but by the way, I'm not trying to throw that out there like that. I didn't know enough about it, but I'm just saying if
you got tattoos?
Not one.
Oh man,
okay.
I was going to ask if your insurance covered it.
Right. Maybe that's why I don't have one.
I'm sorry. I hit record. So
that's the lead in.
Yeah.
Welcome. Welcome to Concerned Citizens. We are your concerned citizens in St. Mary's County, empowering the people, igniting change. We are going to go around the horn really quick to introduce our concerned citizens. We're going to start down below with you, Mr. Hill.
I'm Mr. Chris Hill, a concerned citizen of St. Mary's County. Also a realtor and, whatever.
Yeah, you do some other stuff, right?
A little bit, here or there.
I'm Brandon Russell. I am also a concerned citizen of St. Mary's County. Ran for county commissioner last year and post updates about county government on my Facebook page, Brandon for St. Mary's.
And if you're not looking at that, you should.
Absolutely. I
Thank
think that's the most comprehensive summary that we have out here.
Yeah.
My name is BJ Hall, and I too am a concerned citizen. I'm not fired up this week, so shout out to that. And I also ran for county commissioner. Against a lot of good advice I should have probably followed. So, but no, we're gonna have a good show today, and hopefully you tell your friends. Please like, share, and pass this along to everyone you know. Tell a friend.
Subscribe. Yeah, find us. You can find us on the baynet.com/podcast. You can find us on Apple Music, Spotify. Look for us. Google. You can find us anywhere you want to find us.
Google me, baby. All right, we're going to continue to get to know each other, going in the same direction. Chris, what is your favorite song?
All right, so I don't think I really have a favorite song. I do have a favorite artist that I'll share, and it's Bryan Adams. I've been a Bryan Adams fan for most of my life, so I like a lot of his stuff. Always have. So that's just one. That's just one.
Is it bad that I don't know Bryan Adams?
Are you serious?
Dead real. I could not point him out in the lineup.
You're kidding me?
No, not joking at all.
Well, you need to check out his song with Tina Turner. That maybe that'll change your mind.
All right.
He's got some really good stuff. He had a lot of 80s music. You know what I mean? Like it was 80s stuff. So
I was really into gospel in the 80s.
Okay. Summer 69, Heaven. There's some good songs. Straight from the Heart. There's a bunch of them. I just pulled them up here.
Okay. All right, Brandon.
Guess I think my favorite song, I don't know. I always have a hard time choosing, but if I had to choose one, I probably would say Bohemian Rhapsody by Queen. Just because it's so theatrical and like there's so many different things in it. And, I don't know. There's other songs like that too. Every time I hear them, I can listen to them over and over again. But that definitely is one of my favorites.
My favorite song is DNA by Kendrick Lamar. I was gonna say it used to be the song called This Is Your Day by 112, but at this point in my life, DNA, it fires me up, and it's a real powerful song. So I definitely enjoy playing it in the gym and when I'm riding around in my vehicle.
I never really get I don't get as much music in as I used to. You know what I mean? Like it's always like I'm listening to somebody talk.
Listening to Bills.
Yeah.
Podcasts, books, bills. Yeah, I'm in the same position. every once in a while I find myself doing the same thing in the gym, and I'm like, I should probably be listening to music right now. So
Yeah. Keeps your
all
head
right,
clear.
I know, right? Quick summary on what we have going on in Annapolis. Um, Fortunately, they stopped pushing bills down our throat. They only put one additional bill in last week, and that's just because today is crossover. And if you don't know this, that's when all of the bills that get approved by the House get moved over to the Senate, and vice versa. So that's like the cutoff.
So they're going to be working
So,
until late into the night tonight, right? Isn't that how that works usually?
Mm-hmm.
well, I think a lot of the work happened this weekend. That's why you had the House working on Saturday, and so I think it was supposed to happen prior to today.
Wow.
Yeah. So at this point, we have 1697 in the House with 1300 legislative bills and 1363 in the Senate with 973 legislative bills. So they did a lot of they pushed a lot of paperwork.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot of
So
bills. You know, and the people writing them things, man, they got hand cramps this for the last few months.
yeah,
No
and
doubt.
they've been doing that since last year.
A lot of them, yeah, for sure.
Yes, sir. So the just an update on some of the ones that we've been watching. Our in district voting legislation, both 447 and 597. That is the one. There's one bill that was intended to change the law where we would have in district voting, and then there's another that called for a straw poll. Both of those got stuck in committee, and I don't believe either one will cross over. And then we have our public funding bills that are supposed to help us out with our capital improvement projects. We have approximately 56 million, no, 60, 50, 56 million, 41 and 15, right?
56.
56.
Yeah. 56. All right.
Made
41,
me
50.
question it myself.
No, you know what it is? I keep on thinking of Brian's bill number, 623. And I was like, is it 60 million? But
we should definitely get those guys on here after session.
Yes.
I talked to Delegates Morgan last week, and they both said that they would be interested. Brian looked really tired, so I just left him alone.
Hey, wait a minute. Shouldn't the Republicans be the ones that are beat up and tired right now? I'm just saying.
No, see, the thing about it is that the Democrats are on offense and the Republicans are on defense, right? So it's one of those things where all they're doing is just sitting there trying to defend certain posts, right? And so you see they put up all these defensive blocks where these amendments to make it difficult for the bills that are being pushed through by the Democrats in the House. So it's been interesting, especially since Brian is on economic matters, and they're working on all that cannabis legislation.
Right.
So I mean that's got to be something serious. I mean, just trying to get all that language laid out properly in a way that most people will be okay with.
No, I don't know about that, but
Okay with it enough to vote on it at least.
right.
That
right.
part. Yeah, we know how you feel about it, Chris.
I'm making me feel like a bad guy here. I'm just I was just thinking about like the public facilities bond bills, the bond bills. Those are really important. If you're listening, those are probably critically important. I can't imagine they won't cross over. Oh, they already did they? Or one of them did, one of them didn't. Is that what happened?
The Senate version actually crossed over.
Okay. All right. Mm-hmm. And so that was a separation between so that was two separate bills, right? One with the bonding for CIP and the other one's for the YMCA.
Right.
So that they did get them separated. That could be interesting. That's going to be an interesting one for us to watch, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it will be. Yeah, I think it will be it crossed out of the Senate, so hopefully the House will pass it. And I mean, the real big question here is, will the stipulations in the separated out YMCA funding have any kind of hindrance on that project being completed? And only time, I think, will tell, the truth of that situation. But like you said, Chris, we need to get this stuff passed through for sure, because it's not even just about the why. It's about, the sheriff's headquarters. It's about
Right.
rec and park improvements. It's a ton of stuff in the CIP.
Right.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting. That's one we all need to pay attention to, I guess, a little bit. It should, like you said, hopefully it's going to be a no-brainer and it'll go through, but we do need to pay attention to it.
Roger that. I think one thing that we do need to do, we need to we need to take some time to really go through the requirements, some of the details in the YMCA bill. We mentioned it during one of our shows, but I don't think that we went through a lot of the details, because I think people are not familiar with some of the restrictions and some of the possible pitfalls tied to fundraising and a couple of other things that are loaded in that bill. So we probably need to do a more in-depth analysis on the potential issues that could come about because of that bill being separated.
Yeah, I think that's one we need to kind of put on our radar and keep on our radar, and what especially if it passes, because then we, you guys feel it. I don't know if you feel the same way I do. There's so many bills that when they get passed, and I think the public feels this way in general. I think most people do. Bills pass and there's so much stuff in them, right? You never, and that's why we talked about before, the whole save the baby puppies thing, right? You got this, the bill, right? It's not always what it's named, and there's so much other stuff in these things that, in both directions and all over directions. You know what I mean? It's not just, so we all try to do different things with them. So I don't know. That's one we should definitely be cognizant of, because it affects us here in St. Mary's County for sure.
Absolutely. We kind of talked about them going into Saturday with their session, with their floor discussion. Some of the big items that took up a lot of time. One was the gender affirming legislation. So it's a HB 283, Maryland Medical Assistance Program, gender affirming treatment, and it's a Trans Health Equity Act.
You want to have some fun with this? Let's you know what? Let's have some fun with this. I'm gonna read the synopsis.
Uh-oh.
Let's read the synopsis, right? You want to do that?
Proves true.
So requiring beginning on January 1, 2023, the Maryland Medical Assistance Program to provide gender affirming treatment in a non-discriminatory manner, requiring that the gender affirming treatment be assessed according to non-discriminatory criteria that are consistent with current clinical standards, prohibiting the issuance of an adverse benefit determination related to gender affirming treatment unless a certain experienced healthcare provider has reviewed and confirmed the appropriateness of the determination, etc. I feel like I want to be like Willy Wonka, etc., etc., etc.
Yeah, because that bill, that description really does not do any justice to what the bill is actually about. Just like the one we talked about last week.
Right.
With felony murder.
Right.
Because this 283, all it is doing is it is allowing Maryland state sponsored medical insurance to cover gender affirming treatment, which is already being done by private insurance for people who can afford it. And so the delegates who sponsored this bill are just trying to bring the state insurance in line with that. So that you read just basically breaks down to that simple idea.
So was this wasn't the one that we're talking about with the kindergartner pre-K thing, right? That was something else. Was that another bill?
Yeah.
The education portion.
That was the health curriculum.
Yeah.
I think in the school system.
I thought it was, but just making sure.
Yeah, and a lot of I watched the floor debate for this I think it came up like 3 days in a row, didn't it? Came up
Yeah.
one day, they delayed it to Friday, then they
Right.
discussed it again on Saturday. And
Mhm.
the
You have
main
too much time, man. How can you do that?
when I'm in the car, I just let it play 2
That's
times the
awesome.
speed. That's the secret for anybody who wants to keep up with this stuff.
2
Watch it
times.
on YouTube at 2 times the speed, so you don't have to spend 4 hours watching something.
That is true.
Yeah.
But yeah, a lot of the debate around this bill centered around what some delegates said was harming children, butchering children, castrating children. They really made this about kids. And, then the defenders of the bill were saying this is not about kids. This is just basically about making sure that people who are on Maryland state insurance have access to this same type of care currently available through private insurances. And I think that's a pretty simple, a simple idea. I looked at the fiscal note too. Initially, I think when this was in committee, there were some fiscal concerns about it.
Yeah.
But the fiscal note on it, says that it's going to affect a very, very small amount of people. Maybe 25 people will engage in this type of medical care sponsored or paid for by the state insurance. So it was a healthy debate for
It
sure.
was.
I haven't watched that one. I might want to go back and play it at 2 times speed and see and watch it,
Yeah. I think a lot of the, like you said, they started getting into some of the specifics. Well,
Yeah.
it was a similar argument as what was the one that we talked about last week? With the felony murder, where they tried to talk about the age, and so the age was highlighted, and it became the focal point of the argument instead of just discussing the real meat of the issue.
Right.
So
it's funny because we have so many of these politicians on both sides of the aisle that they're gonna pull out the most extreme portion of the bill, right? And also interpret it in an extreme way, right? Like maybe that's the better way to put it. And when that happens, it's like really there's like no. I don't know. They become so passionate about that one little issue. Well, maybe it's not little to them at that point, But I don't know. I come from a mindset that like the federal government should stay out of medical, right? Like, I mean, the state government. I always come from that mindset where they should not have anything to do with it. Like, thus we have mandates of medical mandates and those sorts of things. And I think we have to personal accountability for ourselves to some degree, right? But I mean, I read this enough to understand it, I think, but it's not in my wheelhouse, really. I don't want to. I'm not going to go extreme on it one way or the other because it's like I'm not knowledgeable enough about it. Look again. It's like, are they going to come out here and say like, all right, this gives that means that you can give money for a 2-year-old to have gender affirming treatment. Like, I mean, that's what there's, that's that extreme side,
Yeah.
They were trying to limit the age. Well, they were trying to set a minimum age for who could receive the treatment, and then they were trying to put amendments in there about parental approval,
parental consent.
Exactly. So there were a lot of amendments that were attempted that were really just highlighting the fact that you had minors making those types of decisions. So that was really the place where the amendments were directed.
Yeah, that's right. A lot of them were trying to impose some sort of age requirement for this type of care. But I really felt like the focus on the age piece of it, just like with the felony murder bill, like you said, BJ, did a pretty big disservice to the topic overall. Especially because when people are engaging in this type of medical treatment, it is very likely that it's with a certified medical provider, that their parent is involved if they're underage. All of the things that were said during the debate to the contrary of that were really more of just an arguing point, in my opinion. And for me, when I looked at this bill, I have a bias about this. I fully support it. But I think when you take out what it is actually for, and you just say, okay, there's medical care available to, people who can afford private insurance through their employer, and then people who have to be on state funded insurance or Medicaid can't get that same type of care because they don't have access to private insurance.
Right.
That, of course, we want everybody to have the same access
Right.
to care. So I think that is the point. Like, that was missed very often during the debate around this issue.
Let me ask you seriously, and I'm definitely not trying to throw you under the bus, Brandon, at all, okay? Because I don't want to do that. But we have a good, I think we have a good rapport here, and we talk about these things. What would be the harm in the age limitation in this bill? I'm thinking it has to be so few that are affected by it, if that's the case, that don't have the parental consent and don't. It has to be a minute number, I would think.
Yeah, I don't even know, to be honest with you, what that number actually is. I think the age requirement, at least for me, putting the age requirement on it would make it instantly discriminatory versus people who have private insurance and may be able to access that same care under the age of 18. I mean, the points made during the debate about, parents not being involved and kids making this decision on their own. I mean, the institutions that provide this type of treatment have protocols that they follow. And so you have to meet certain criteria, certain thresholds or milestones within your treatment in order to even qualify for some of these procedures. And then even still beyond that, there are institutions that may not perform certain procedures unless you are above the age of 18. And so I think honestly, I think the resistance to the age limit was just that, the Democrats that supported this felt that it was the Republicans' way of trying to tank the bill and make it into something that it wasn't, for argument's sake.
Which probably was the case. Let's be real.
Yeah, but in my mind, like an actual legal argument would it then make it discriminatory versus somebody who has that access through private insurance, and what does that look like? But I don't know enough about that type of medical care to go too further than that.
Yeah, I don't even know what my insurance would cover in something like that. So I don't even know, So that's the thing. You don't know what kind of your private insurance. You don't know what they cover necessarily either.
Yeah.
But I mean, how many kids are going to their physicians without their parents? And if it's not, how many kids under 18 actually have their own insurance? So it's like you're covered under your parents' insurance, and so it requires some type of sign off. And if you're under 18, it requires most physicians require parental sign off anyway for any type of procedure.
Am I wrong? You can't get a tattoo without. Isn't that the rule? Like,
that's true.
You can't get a tattoo, but you can get gender affirming treatment. That's a little weird, but by the way, I'm not trying to throw that out there like that. I didn't know enough about it, but I'm just saying, if you
got tattoos?
Not one.
Oh man,
okay.
I was going to ask if your insurance covered it.
Right. Maybe that's why I don't have one.
I don't like needles, so.
Yeah, I think I'm in the same boat. So, I mean, this is an interesting. It's an interesting topic. I think I would never comment on too much of it because I don't understand it enough, and I'm not educated enough on it. I just hope that they have taken all that into consideration when they do this stuff, and it's not just a political bill, right? Like a feel-good bill. That's not what we need up there anymore, right? We got, how many there was. Let's see here, 1,300 of these daggone things that we had to deal with, and how many of those are political?
Sorry.
No, you're good.
No, it didn't sound like it was a political move. It just seems like this is a healthcare access issue.
All right, look. Here's how. Here it comes. We're getting started now. Okay. No, but no. I mean, here's my thing. All right, like, how much time, energy, and effort was spent on a bill like this, and I want to know how many people it affects. Like, did we just spend thousands of hours and thousands of dollars on a bill that affects 10 people? Right? Like, I mean, and did we? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. I don't know. And is there anything wrong with that? I don't know necessarily either. Right? Like, if there's only 10, if it affects 10 people negatively, I'm back to, could we have spent that time, energy, and effort elsewhere for the betterment of the state? That's a good question. I think sometimes, like, you see some of these bills, like, back to the gas weed eater. Right? I'm sorry, the gas weed eater is not giving us global warming, and we're not gonna our tides are not going up because of a gas weed eater. We got bigger fish to fry. Let's figure out which fish they are.
Right.
Well, I mean, I agree with you, and to your main point, I agree, and I would say that the General Assembly does have a tendency to try to go with the flavor of the moment when they're building their legislative priorities. So I understand what you're saying, and this may fall into that category if we're talking about 20 people, but at the same time, if it's actually a limitation, if it's 2 or 3 people, let's go ahead and fix that and move forward. I mean, and we don't have to have all this challenging language. Just say, hey, we're adjusting Medicaid. It could be covered. Let's move forward.
I just think
they could adjust it just that it covers everything. It was like it covers all procedures.
I think for this bill, it definitely falls into both of those categories because, I mean, let's face it, trans issues are being talked about in probably every state. They're being talked about nationally. So it is, for lack of a better term, kind of like the flavor of the month, politically speaking. If you want to take a stand on something, this is the hot button issue, or one of. And that's unfortunate. But I also do think that it is a necessary change to the law. Now, could they have spent, 6 less hours debating it on the House floor? Yeah, they definitely could have, because it was all grandstanding anyway. The Republicans knew they weren't stopping it. The Democrats knew it was going to go through. So it was a waste of time just from that perspective to be arguing about it.
And that's the thing. I mean, like, it's still so divisive, and the topic, it's almost like, are they setting it up just to be that way? I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, this is the same thing they did with 655. I think every year it's going to be something that's going to be that's going to cause a lot of conversation, right? A lot of floor discussion. So,
well, yeah, but you know what? Look, all right, this is a concerned citizen comment, and you know what? We're pretty friendly with our local legislators, right? We know them all pretty well, but at the end of the day, when are they really accountable to what we want? Right? The big picture items, okay, whatever, but you spent thousands of hours, and you're going to do it again, and you're going to do it again, and you're going to do it again next year, dealing with the same issues that maybe we don't want. I actually, if we're a true constitutional republic, let's say that again, right? Then we need to understand that there's an opportunity for the people to speak up for what they want, and our delegates maybe or maybe not that voice for us anymore. I'm talking about the federal level now a little bit more too, but particularly, St. Mary's County is a very different jurisdiction than it used to be.
I think if you think of one, you probably have a lot more experience of with influencing people in Annapolis, considering what you do and with a few of your groups. I mean, you all don't necessarily represent the interests of all Marylanders, but you represent a group of people. And I think the same thing happens when you have situations like this, because it's not like there are no groups that are pushing to make sure that this bill is passed. So there are groups that are pushing this bill. So they do speak for a group of people that would like to see this done.
I get that, and I mean, I just again, I wonder if there's this tightrope, right? That we have to walk. Is like you've got are you representing a group of 30 people that have a louder voice, squeaky wheel gets the grease kind of thing, or do or are you representing the bulk of the people? I've often thought like who is your constituent, right? Like because. Remember, it's like you, as a politician, you're going to be surrounded by the people that support you, and they're going to tell you the things that you want to hear mostly. And then you're going to hear a couple other people that are, picking at your ear, and and they're going to be the ones that you'll be like, I don't want to deal with that,
Yeah. Well, I mean, we could go down a rabbit hole with this, but think about this thought here. How much more time would concerned citizens like ourselves have to talk to our delegates and senators and federal folks if those pesky lobbying groups were not around?
No, I get it. No, and look, I don't completely disagree. The problem is that those are that's a whole cause and effect of this whole situation. You're absolutely right.
It is.
It really is.
It's like a paradox. It just keeps feeding itself.
And the problem is like some of these organizations have tons of money. They can hire tons of people to lobby, and they may not represent that many people, but they got a lot of money to do it.
You know what? You just brought up a really good point. Maybe we should develop a lobbying firm that actually answers to the people. It was like we just have a bunch of community outreach events. It was like,
yeah, what do you want?
I care about the voice of the people. It was like,
well, you know what?
Let us be your mouthpiece in Annapolis.
Hey, let's start right here. All we got to do is start right here. If you got something you want done in Annapolis and we can help in any way, put it out there. Let's figure it out. Yeah. We'll put it on this show for sure, and we'll invite the people that it affects on the show. And if they don't show up, then we'll have a conversation about that as well.
That's right. Send us an email.
We want to know, I mean, I totally believe in that. I think that's what that's what we need to be doing.
Absolutely.
Anyway, sorry I rambled again.
No. I mean, luckily we have all the time in the world to talk about the rest of the things we have listened.
Yeah, sorry. You know what? If you're still tuning in, God bless you.
Yeah. We got some pretty hot stuff to talk about at the county level, I think.
I think so too.
Roger that. I'm not 100% sure that we can get into all of that today, but because I mean, once we actually started talking about budget issues, and I mean, we'll probably be at the 30-minute mark on just those issues.
Right.
I think we probably need to put a pin in the St. Mary specific issues and just kind of come back to that. And maybe, well, I don't want to.
Hey, let us know if you want us to do. Let us know if you want us to start doing more podcasts. We can just do an extra one in the week,
I was thinking, I was like, man, don't say that. I had to bite my tongue. I was like, ah.
Yeah, that's funny.
A daily show here, guys.
I know. We could literally talk about these, like, just again back to inside baseball. There is an agenda, and we've hit part one of 10.
Part one of part one.
Right.
The funny part is like all I said was, let's not get stuck on this.
Yeah, and we did. That's good stuff. Anyway, I definitely want us to talk about the Charlotte Home Veterans Center and that what happened there this week and that debacle. I mean, we don't have to talk about it today, but we definitely should bring that up. And then the budget session conversations you talked about, we're going to talk about.
Mention it real quick, because some people, I've been talking about it ever since we had that text exchange, and a lot of people were just not aware of the of what happened.
Yeah, I mean, basically, it appears as though it came out of the blue, right? Like, I mean, it's the optics are that it came out of the blue, that the governor's office ended the contract with the management company, if you will, right? Like, I don't know what you call them, of the Charlotte Home Veterans Center, Veterans Home. And there was reports of alleged improprieties, et cetera, and actions that were not good for the veterans. and we weren't aware of it as citizens. So that's a big problem, right? Like as concerned citizens, we worry about that. Like I know that our commissioners came out and like, hey, we just heard about it ourselves, and then I know that our delegates said, hey, look, we just heard about it ourselves as well. That's a big problem for everybody, right?
Yeah.
And so
I think that kind of goes back to your point about, why aren't we talking to our representatives more, right? I mean, when I saw the news about this, I was just as surprised as everybody else. And then when I saw that the commissioners and Senator Bailey and Delegate Morgan came out with statements, Matt Morgan, got to make the distinction there now.
Yeah, I know.
But they came out with statements, and it's like, that's great. I'm glad that you're aware of it now, but where was the breakdown? Yes, the state handles this, the state manages or oversees the management company, but this is in our backyard.
Yeah.
Like we should be informed.
Yeah. And I mean,
I think that Matt Morgan actually brought up a really good point. That visitation has been limited so much since COVID. So
yeah, he did say that. Yeah.
Being that relatives didn't have as much access to their their loved ones that are being housed there, they wouldn't be able to report those, because if you had more visitation there, then you would have more people highlighting some of the complaints, instead of just depending on someone reporting from it within the facility.
Right. Yeah, I think that's a very valid point for sure. But I mean, I've known plenty of people who have worked there. My stepmother worked there probably at least 2 decades ago. And some of the same things that were alleged in the story that came out were happening back then. And so, it just kind of makes me wonder what has the level of disregard for these people been recently compared to historically, because I really don't honestly believe that you could not talk to anybody who has worked there and not get some sort of story about something out of there. I mean, that can be true of anywhere, and no disrespect to the folks who do work there, because their work is very important and definitely very hard. My husband used to work in elder care for a number of years, and it's very hard work, but I don't know. I think overall it's just very disturbing to know that it was going on and nobody knew.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things that that's one of the things we need to hold them. I don't want to say accountable, because it sounds like we need to be uncovering what the truth is and what happened and who was notified and how did they find out and why wasn't stuff done sooner? If it let's be real. Maybe it didn't need to be sooner. Maybe the contract was up and they had heard enough complaints and they just said, let's just terminate this contract.
No,
it doesn't sound like that, right? I was going to say
they just re-upped on the contract.
Yeah. So, okay. Well, then there's a huge problem over there, and I'm glad. I'm actually, you got to give the governor a lot of credit for stepping in and making a big change like that, because that's a big deal, right? Like it's not something you do on a whim necessarily. So somebody got to him and told him there was a problem, and I just wish we, as concerned citizens, we want to know those things. If there's that stuff's going on, we need to be able to speak up for our people.
Right.
Yeah, I did a little bit of research on the company, and I was disturbed because they have several facilities in Alabama, so Alabama, Texas, South Carolina, and I'm sitting here looking, and they had a very similar incident down in Huntsville, Alabama, where the state had to come in and do some investigating because they had similar treatment at a facility. So I'm like,
wow.
All right, this is a company that probably needs to be watch a little closer.
That's the part that gets me too. Is it still concerns me because, maybe the problem is we don't know the company to bring it in either.
True.
And
they mentioned possibly having it brought up under the state. So that was, yeah, I know, and that was, and when I heard that, I was like, whoa, this is sounding, it's a little funny now. It's like, it was like getting rid of one of Governor Hogan's contracts, and I was like, it's like, please don't let this be shenanigans, because if we
Yeah.
have shenanigans around a veteran's home, that's not the way. That's dirty pool.
It's dirty pool. That's a good way of putting it. And we, yeah, I guess we'll just at that point we'll be the ones that we'll be the ones speaking up.
That's right.
Definitely. So the secretary, was it the Secretary of Veteran Affairs, is actually a classmate of mine. And so I reached out to him. I'm trying to get a little more information so we can stay on top of it. Anthony Woods. That's one of my West Point classmates. So
Very cool.
yeah.
Is that name drop? You're name dropping now? Look at that. I love it. I love it.
So that means if you have concerns, please email them to BJ.
Hey, don't forget, wait a minute, hold on. Make sure you tell everybody before we get off here. You got we got an email address that you can send to concerned citizens, right?
Yes, sir.
We do. It
Now the
is
question.
I don't know what it is, but
it's SOMD concerned citizens at gmail.com.
All right, SOMD concerned citizens at gmail.com. So you can you email us and we'll be the ones that'll bring it up.
That's right.
I'm glad somebody had it on like right there at the fingertips, because I was like, oh man, what is that?
I was gonna go through that. I know you had sent us an email from it, so I was gonna click on my email and type in something. I don't know where it is.
All right.
Well, I think we got stuck, didn't we? We covered a lot. We covered a lot of time. But I'm looking forward to next week for our budget conversation. And that'll be a good time too, because they'll have made quite a few more decisions, so we can talk a little more about it.
That'll be good stuff.
Yeah. So until then, everybody stay informed.
Stay engaged.
And stay empowered.
See you guys.